There we go. We're good to go.
All right. Yay. I love this part. I love this part so much. Running panels and moderating conversations of consciousness is like the most yummy thing where all of the goodness in life shows up. It always feels to me like when, you know, when you're a kid and you're hanging out together with all your friends and you come up with the crazy ideas, and all of a sudden you're like riding your bike down the giant hill in town with, you know, the little cards on them so they make sound. And yeah, you know, one of you falls and the other ones are like, oh, it's the best thing ever. That's what happens in these kind of conversations in, you know, these conscious places. So I'm so excited to be able to moderate this panel for the Soulful Awakening Festival 2021. 21, I was going to 2 because I know that's next one's coming, right? Woo, woo. So excited to create this opportunity for our panelists to share more about who they are and how they're interpreting the world, and to give everybody an opportunity to you know, jump into this Soulful Awakening Festival in a full-in way. So we're going to get started. How it's going to work, because we're on Zoom, I'm just going to ask the panelists to just, you know, kind of moderate your own mutes with, you know, if you feel like talking, you know, unmute and jump in. I'll ask some questions directly, but just moderate the turning off of your sound if you're not talking, just because even, you know, if you have a really good microphone, it'll pick up everything. So that's all. That's all. Let's just have fun with this and, you know, see what kind of magic we can create in this conversation. So I'm, you know, not going to go around and introduce everybody as far as reading out your bios, because everybody can access them on the website. But we will, you know, have an opportunity to get to know everybody that's here. And, you know, just when you guys talk, maybe take a moment to identify who you are today and what you're doing today in this space with us. All right, so I want to just start by encouraging people that are listening, if you're listening to the live stream or the feed, to pop your questions in. I believe it's on Facebook and maybe some other places. Any questions you have, because even if we don't get to them right now, somebody will get back to you and fill them out and answer them, which is lovely. All right, so, you know, all of us here have this unique view of the world that intersects, which has brought us to the Soulful Awakening Festival. As I was, you know, getting to know what each of you are doing, and some of you I know personally have had the chance to be around and know, one of the things that really informs me is the beautiful way that we all understand the mystic. And to me, the mystic is what exists beyond what our intellect and our physical conscious, like our right in front of us, our touch and whatever, can interpret. And everyone here interprets the mystic in a very beautiful and unique way. So the mystic allows us to remove ourselves from the thoughts and the thinking and the believing of some of the things in our world. And, you know, when we do that, we remove the limitations from our lives. So I'm going to invite our panelists to share how the idea of being mystic is a valuable part of their being and how that shows up in their world. So I'm going to start with Paula. I'm going to ask you to go first. She's like, no, you always ask me last.
I just showed up to listen. Yes. So, hi, I'm Paula. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a sacred love alchemist. And what does that mean? That means that I find the love in everything. I transmute pain into love. I transmute trauma into love and the sacred love that is ourselves, which goes along with being a mystic. Because there came a time in my life I was realized that I had spent years and years and years living in toxic situations and abuse. And that wasn't my truth. And it felt like I was being tossed around. And then as I began to discover my truth about myself, it was totally the opposite of all that gunk I'd been living. And so being a mystic to me means that I get to live my truth. It means that I am this wonderful being. I'm not the situations, I'm not the 3D life, I'm not any of that stuff. I get to be in that sacred love all the time. And, mystic, it's a mystical word. So, and I think that's because, like when I used to look at the word, it had a lot of mystery around it because nobody ever taught us this stuff. It's all been hidden. It's all been hidden over the years. It's all been hidden in our lives. And yet somewhere deep within inside of us, I know when I got down to a really low time, I could see a little flame inside of me. Somewhere deep inside of us, there's that flame, that mystic flame. And I just value that so much. And so bringing out that inner mystic in me is living my truth. And thank you for choosing me first, Larry.
Thank you for that sharing. As a panelist, sometimes it can be a bit uncomfortable to be like, oh, I got to share this thing that somebody's inquiring about me that I'm not ready for. Yeah, this truly amazing thing will happen, and everybody is going to see that we're all so interconnected in our consciousness right now that it's going to be so fun after for people to watch this and see, Paula, that what you ignites something in somebody else, and the playfulness that comes out in these conversations. So I will invite whoever wants to go next to, just unmute yourself and share with us how that, that mystic awareness shows up in your life.
I'm going to talk to see if it comes through because I don't know the difference between mute and not mute. Am I there?
You sure are, and it's beautiful to hear your voice.
Hello, I'm Pamela Roger, and the mystic, beautiful word, beautiful word. The mystic, I don't think was identified in me for a long, long time. And I think only by hearing the word, I go, oh, yes, the mystic. I remember at a very early age that I saw things and felt things and understood things that weren't necessarily in the norm of the family and the community that was around me. And that was a struggle because I always felt like I wasn't from here. I'm not from here. There's something that is lacking in how I was placed on this planet. And as a young person with absolutely no guidance, also no teachers, I absorbed that information and actually took it into a much more destructive and negative place in my life, and always wanted to run away from it. And of course, alcohol, drugs were the vehicle that I chose. And that was kind of a smart aleck way of approaching life. And I just kept on rolling with that for a long time. And what I would do in my art, I have been a studio artist for 45 years, did and didn't reflect the mystic that was trying to come to the surface. As I got closer to hitting the wall hard, the shamanic death, I think there were windows into my work that talked about the death of that person, that spirit, that character. And so that person, that character had to either die or start over. And it was chosen that I did get to live and to start over. Not because I was selected or anything like that. It was just simply a chance. So the mystic came out of my work more and more. And I enjoyed those years of being really quiet and not being in front of an audience. And I think the mystic that had always been there as a little girl started to define herself in a much stronger way. So today, I don't necessarily put a label on myself saying that I'm a this or a that. It happens all around me. And with the kind of comfortable body that I lean into the invisible, I find that that's the place where I can sometimes help people and help myself, and also allow myself to live a very smooth life.
Wow. Thank you, Pamela. You know, something that you talked about that I think all of us here can identify with is when we have experienced that really destructive place, because we didn't have the guidance and the teachers and the people around us to help us understand that there's so much more to the experience of our lives than what other people tell us it should be. And it's so wonderful to be able to be a part of something like the Soulful Awakening Festival, because it's a place where everybody can come to experience someone similar to them in some way, in that fraction of, oh, I recognize that. And there's teachers here, and there's guidance here, and there's people to stand beside here. So thank you for sharing. Who else? Bev, would you like to? I see you're unmuted.
I unmuted. I just, when I hear you speak of the energy of the mystic, to me, it takes me right into understanding that the essence of the second chakra. The second chakra's psychic abilities and the gifts that reside within the second chakra are the energy of the mystic. That's the ability to be able to see the big picture, to be able to see more than what just meets the eye, and know that it exists out there, and to tap into that. It really requires a whole lot of faith to tap into that and to really trust it. And so as you know, all of us delve into that energy of the mystic, what we're doing is we're taking steps forward in faith that there's more to life than what just meets the eye. There's more to life than what everybody tells us about ourselves, right? And so going into that second chakra brings that divine being that you are right down here. The second chakra is about the reality and the existence of the physical being. It's all the physical, it's the creation, it's the procreation. And so when we tap into the energy of the mystic, what we're doing is we're uniting the divine being that we are in with this physical expression. And suddenly, when you can take that step of faith, you see things in a completely different way. You see who you really are. You begin to experience the light being that you are in the physical experience of life. And it is such a powerful place to be. It's a difficult place to stay. And it takes the power of the will. It takes the power of the will to step forward in faith. But when you do that, it's like Lori was saying, it puts you in that place of awe and wonder, right? It puts you in that place of awe and wonder. That's where the second chakra is. It's awe and wonder and creativity and just feeling everything about life. And sometimes we feel like we're really lacking that, but because I find in my life, it's because I'm not allowing myself to go into that inspiration, to take steps forward into faith, to know that what I know and what I see, that's beyond the physical, that's beyond the limitations of the human mind is really what's valuable in my life. And so, yeah, everybody here has that energy of the mystic. It's the energy of the mystic that had the vision for this festival. That's why we are all here, because it helps us to just really put that bigger picture in concrete in our physical existence. And that's what makes it so powerful.
Like, do you guys feel like every time somebody talks, you just need to take a deep breath to like totally integrate the amazingness that each person shares? I love that about these kind of conversations. I really appreciate about how you allowed people to understand the integration of the physical and the mystic is a oneness, right? It's not a separateness. And I love how you brought that back in for us to understand that, and brought it into the conversations of the chakras. And you said something at the end, and so I'm actually going to move this towards Tracy. I'm going to ask Tracy and Nicole to share. Tracy, if you're willing now. You talked about how the mystic is part of what created this festival. And Tracy, every conversation we have puts me in this place of seeing the blueprint over top of the physical experience that's going on. And I know that that's part of the way that you allow me to interpret my world, is because you move in this beautiful mystic way of your own. And so I'd love for you to share how that has helped you inform creating this festival.
Well, it was interesting when you first said the mystic. I didn't really think about that. But what I really understand is that I have my whole life, I don't ever not remember feeling completely mystical. Ever since I was little, I felt like I was more mystical than I was human. I had a really hard time actually being in the human world, because my mind would be always in creation, always in imagination. And I started actually receiving information from my guides at a very young age. So I would always have this like tapped in kind of information that would just be coming through me all the time. And the way that I expressed it was I had this feeling inside, and it's still to this day is a very difficult feeling to describe, but it's like there is this like vibrational movement, and it is just this pure joy and pure wonder about, I always get excited about what possibly could be. I find too sometimes that does take me out of the moment of now. I've had to really practice that, staying in the moment of now, so I can be more present and stuff. But I would get this like excitable energy that would just be what could possibly happen next. Because once everything felt like it was in the shroud of mystery and shroud of unknown, that's where the most excited would be. And that actually does link into the festival. So when I first had this feeling to get as many people as I could aligned in together for the festival, because what I would notice is that having this energy within me, I kept bringing and drawing in other people that completely represented this too. I would just find it in every single way. And then I would see how when we would get together, you'd find this energy that I would feel within me all of a sudden would feel like a third energy, and it would be out, and it would kind of interact and grow in the room that I was hanging out with these people in. And I thought, what a beautiful place, but to have a space that we could actually do that and have everybody else join in, and it can grow and become its own level of consciousness.
I feel that. I would say everybody that's ever been in a conversation with you about the Soulful Awakening Festival feels that. And we all go out and then talk about this like growth of consciousness that's happening. And I'm so in wonder and awe and gratitude that you knew your entire life how to not become jaded in that beautiful world of mystic and magic that you saw. Because of that, we all get to do this wonderful thing together and, allow other people to become more of who they are. And so I'm sure everybody here and everybody that knows you and everybody that is going to be experiencing this festival this year, last year, and, the years to come, feels that sense of gratitude for you being in our world this way. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Now, Nicole, would you like to go since we're already here? Do you want to just talk a little bit about first, tell us who you are today?
Let's see, to me right now, who I am today is not, I'm still not myself. I'm going to be honest. It's been hard. It's been heavy. It's been really difficult to tap into that mystic energy for me. I can see it like this light at the end of the tunnel, and it's just like, I just want to get back there. And something else and something else. And it used to be things that I could just shake off, but just the compounding weight have been super heavy, which is why this and the festival and the energy of it has been so uplifting, because seeing everyone, I don't know, for me, especially right now, when I hear mystic, I get to see it in everybody else. And I get to see the energy from you, Lori, and Paula and Pam and Bev. Just gonna jump in. Your workshops were incredible yesterday. Like, I cried through the end of it through school. Getting to be here with Tracy. To me right now, that is the mystic energy that you are all emanating, and I get to, that light at the end of my tunnel gets brighter, because through all of you, I can kind of snag a bit of that back with myself.
I know that there's so many of us. I mean, every single one of us on this call have felt and, have experienced exactly what you're talking about. And I'm so happy that you described it, Nicole, because many of the people who are coming to the Soulful Awakening Festival feel this thing. They feel this, like there's a light. They feel this, something feels heavy, but it's not supposed to. And how you're articulating it right now is so wonderful, because you have felt that freedom of the light and the clarity and the consciousness that's you in all of your mysticness. And it's so lovely that you're giving other people the opportunity to understand that when you start to come towards who you are, we all know there's this thing, if there's just this thing, right? Just right there. You can see it. It just feels heavy right now. And how wonderful that there's a place for everybody to come in and be a part of that in the Soulful Awakening Festival. And how lovely you're already feeling that weightlessness, like it's all just like transforming for you. And thank you for sharing. I'm excited to ask you some more questions, because I've been doing some exploring myself. So Samir, would you like to share with us how you interpret that world, the world in the way that you see it?
Sure. So I don't really relate with that word mystic, but I relate with everything all of you have said about it. So I too had to think about it when you asked that question. I'm like, I know that word, but how come I never use it? And I had to look back in my life, and I realized there was a period of time in my life when I would call I was a mystic. And the difference in my interpretation, as I'm thinking about that word now, mystic, and I don't know the dictionary definition, I'm assuming it means someone who's exploring the mysteries of life, the part of life that science hasn't explained. But I think for me, there's an aspect of intellectualism in there that I think I lost somewhere along the way. So I'll share a story from my life. When I started on this journey, what I relate as spiritualism, on a spiritual path, I was 10 years old when my grandfather died, and I was in India. And in India, it's a big ceremony we burn the bodies, and there's a place where you take the body to burn it, and there's thousands of family and friends that are all there. And I remember clearly this moment where I'm seeing his body is lying over there in front of me, about a good 30 feet in front of me. But he's standing here beside me, behind my left shoulder, clear as day, full 3D, like I could turn around and touch him if I wanted to. And at first I couldn't kind of wrap my head around it. And then immediately I got struck with this fear. If I tell anybody I'm seeing this being who's died, whose body is right there, they'll call me crazy, and they'll throw me in a mental asylum and treat me with electroshock therapy. Those were my pictures from movies I had seen. But as a 10-year-old, that was a real fear. Oh my God, I don't want that to happen. So I never told anybody, I never mentioned. I even ignored him all the time. And he stayed with me for 25 years. But about 8 years after that day, I had turned 18, and I, for the first time, had freedom to travel on my own. So I collected all my cousins who were freshly turned 18, and we traveled to a different part of the country, as far as I could go, just to experience my freedom. So there's like 6 of us traveling way in South India somewhere. And we're just taking day by day. In the morning, we decide where we're going to go next. And one day we ended up at this small town where there is an ancient temple from India's history, very, very famous historical temple. Now, in those days, I was a staunch atheist, very scientific minded. I had renounced the religion I grew up in, Hinduism, and I just stubbornly refused to enter a temple. But and it's India, so my cousins wouldn't go in without me. It's just a cultural thing. Either we all go together or nobody goes. And I knew it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them, because this place is so remote. When are we ever going to come back here? And this is one of the main historic temples, so it is an opportunity for them. So we reached a compromise. I said, okay, I'll walk into the main door, but I'll stay in the courtyard around the inner temple. You guys can go in. And they agreed. Well, as soon as I walked in from the main door, there's a courtyard around there. And then on the far side, there's this priest sitting there, Indian priest in white garbs. Immediately he calls out to me and says, come here. So I go there, and he says, I want to read your palm, as in, like palmistry. I don't believe in all that stuff. He's like, no, I really want to read your palm. I'm like, no, I don't believe it. And he's really pushing it. He says, okay, only 5 rupees, which at that time converted would be what, 10 cents? And I'm like, I don't believe in it. It's not about the money. And he's like, okay, I'll read all your palms, all 6 of us. And then it occurred to me, we have a long drive back later that evening. This will make for good, jokes and laughter. So I said, come on, guys, let's do it. Just we'll have some material to make fun of. So again, being India, the culture is such, we have to go in chronological orders. So my cousins, if they're older than me, out of respect, they go first. I am second from the last. And so he has to go through everybody to get to me. And he's like, oh, you will live till 82 years old. You will have lots of money. You'll have 3 kids. Very good, very good. Next. Oh, you will live long life, have lots of money. You'll have so many kids. Very good, very good. Next. So he's going down the line to get to me. Eventually, he looks at my hand and says, do you know your grandfather is always with you? And that moment changed my life. First, immediately, in a flash, my brain did all the calculations. Is this a setup? Is this a con? But nobody knew we were there. Nobody, besides the 6 of us, knew where we were, because we had been out and about for 6 days. And we didn't know we were coming into this town until that morning. And we weren't even planning to come to this town. It was just where we would catch a bus to the next place we were going. And I had never ever mentioned to anybody that I see him. So there was no way this was a con. Once I accepted that, then my life changed because that made him real. This being that has been with me for about 8 years at that time, I've been completely ignoring. Suddenly somebody else validates he's there. Now I can't ignore it. I can't say it's not there. Suddenly it's real. And it really changed me, because then I realized death is not the end of life, because he died, but he's still here. So death is not the end of life, but he's still here. And then I started my quest. Okay, and now I have to understand what's going on. So I came back from that trip. I stopped reading fiction books and I started reading all kinds of esoteric things, starting with palmistry, of course. And once I understood palmistry, I realized there's no way he saw my granddad in my hands. That was a ruse, because he was clairvoyant. He was seeing my granddad. And so I went up, step by step, learned many different things. But it was still a very scientific mind. So I would consider myself a mystic at that time. I'm trying to solve the mystery of life. And quite a few years later, I finally ended up in a Reiki class. And as soon as the teacher started teaching, I'm like, oh, but how does this work? And what is that? And this? And he's like, Samir, I am a graduate of IIT, which is India's MIT, and very respected scientific college, the cream of the cream. Go there. It's like, I graduated from there. I can answer all your questions in terms of physics and quantum physics and everything. But how about I answer them tomorrow? Today, you just experience what you experience. Just follow the directions and have your experience. Like, okay, I can do that. Because he was IIT graduate, I trusted he can answer my questions. So I relaxed. My brain relaxed. And I started inviting the Reiki energy in. And the next thing, I'm feeling it. And it's coming in loud and strong. And oh my God, there's something here. I can't explain it, but I can't deny it either. And I think that's the moment when my spiritual path started. It no longer became trying to prove it or trying to understand it. It became trying to relate with it and use it to benefit the whole world. So I think for me, I more relate with being spiritual.
I want to just keep listening to you talk all day. So I'm really excited to tap into your session, because I feel so drawn in. And part of the reason I feel so drawn in is because I can relate to, that place. Like, it's like when we are drawn to step into our wholeness, that wholeness of who we are all meant to be, it's going to occur. We can resist it, we can fight it, we can ignore it, we can pause it, but then we become it. We are always going to become who we are on our path to become. And, I love what you said, that death is not the end of life. So even if we don't become what we think we're going to, we will. We always do. And I think so many people can relate to the understanding of our wholeness. I'll often hear people talk about, I was an engineer, I was corporate, and now I'm not. And I always say, oh, such a beautiful blessing. You are all. You are all. There'll be, I was this and now I have to be this, or I don't have to be this, so I have to be this. And what you're describing for all of us is this beautiful place that we don't have to put a word on it, like mystic or spiritual or whatever. We are just all becoming. And so many people can relate to that. And it's part of what I really know occurs when you become a part of the Soulful Awakening Festival, is you are able to tap into many different stories, many different practitioners, many different ways to stop resisting who you're becoming, to step into the pause, to question with curiosity and excitement, because everybody here that's holding space for all of the people that come to the festival and are a part of it, we remember the tentativeness of it, I don't know if I should, or like Tracy's always experienced it. And there's people out there like you, Samir, who, you know, your grandfather's been with you the whole time. He was with you all those years. And there's so many people that are experiencing that. And they just need a place to come where they can go, somebody sees me. And that's what this festival is. So, you know, I know we're live streaming on Facebook, and, you know, later, you know, people are going to go and share it. So, you know, comment, you know, we're putting the, you know, our website, I've put it in the link, and come and get your tickets and enjoy the wisdom that you're hearing times like 1,000. All right. So, you know, that we've just started tapping into what these beautiful people have to share. You know, I'm really curious for everybody, when we start to picture and talk about the conversations of, say, like the wisdom of our ancestors, or we often will hear things like the ancient ones, or you know, I see all of you as incredible wisdom keepers. And you all bring a different kind of wisdom to the world and to each other, and to everybody that's in the festival. I would love to have you guys share a little bit of how you interpret the wisdom that you share. You know, like Nicole, I know you work with the crystals and they speak to you, and I've dabbled in that. You know, I love them and I dabble in that. And I recently shared a crystal that somebody had programmed for me. He's not well, and I shared it with his sister, and she felt it right away. And I was like, oh, that's so good. You know, so, and then Paula, you speak in a different way in the wisdom, and all of us speak in a different way. So I would love for each of you to share a little bit about how you interpret the wisdom that comes through you, whether it's earth wisdom or clairvoyance, or the chakras, or, you know, the beautiful art that you translate, Pamela, in that way. So that's what I'm putting it out there. Just somebody jump in and share how you interpret and share your wisdom.
Since I'm in a flow, how about I go here?
Yes.
Keeping the baton of my previous story. So I learned a lot of different spiritual teachings, and met a lot of teachers, different practices over the years, but I don't talk much about them because I no longer practice all that stuff. When I met my current teacher, he started teaching me about clairvoyance and learning to see the energies directly. And I think that completely changed my interpretation of the world, because it's no longer based on something I said or heard, even from my teacher. It's all about what I see for myself about anything and everything. So that's what I practice, and that's what I am looking forward to sharing and teaching, is how to develop clairvoyance and start seeing the truth, seeing the illusions as illusions, and then seeing, discerning the truth behind everything for yourself in a more direct way. Thank you.
Thank you. I love it. So everybody tap into that session, because who here would like to be able to just see the truth right here, right here. Love it. Thank you. Right. All right. Who's next? How do you share your wisdom with the world? How do you interpret it?
I think unknowingly we share our wisdom. I think that if I do it simply in this moment, then it comes truly from something that is bigger than me, more divine, and really set on helping a situation. At times it sounds like I'm talking without filters to different people. And at times I'm even shocked when I'll say something to someone and I go, oh, didn't mean to say that, but somehow it was needed for the moment. I think that any of us who have any length of time accepting our body and accepting our spirit and accepting all the energy that it can hold and give, that you'll see, you'll experience sort of ebbs and flows. And I found that over time, especially if I keep to myself in my studio, things will grow very quiet, and the events that happen or are needed don't happen as often. And so I can lose that moment of kind of thinking, is it there? Are you still there? Am I awake? Am I still fully awake? And then the times change, or the stars change, or the energy changes, or the people arrive, and suddenly then I feel like I'm activated again. But I really need those quiet times, not to have any kind of external energy flow to be able to reach those places of when I make my art, I can make it with absolutely no illusions or any expectations. And so I'll finish something and then I'll go, and people say, what's that? I don't know. I don't know. And then it slowly reveals itself over a period of time. I go, oh, there, oh. And part of it is how people receive it and how they talk about it and what they're getting from it. So then I think, that was a good amount of no brain, no thought, just simply flowing, because then it's received in such a way that it's a helpful tool for all people. I think I've gone off track, but that's how my brain works too. Yeah, I think that I don't expect to have the moment that is somehow said or done so that it'll help people. And in a lot of cases, some of the work that I do are mosaic stepping stones for people to honor someone in their family, or in a lot of cases, people who've passed. And I don't know these people, but I will be able to tap into something that they wanted to say from the other side. So I really try to do what I call working from the other side of the studio. So it's not a product, it's not a moment, it's not an event. It will simply come through me and then be helpful or not helpful or entertaining or decorative, whatever it wants to be.
Right. I just can't. I always am like so fascinated. So many gems. There's so many gems. It's going to be what it wants to be, right? It's going to be what it wants to be. And all of us understand, and this is something I really encourage people that are coming to the Soulful Awakening Festival to remember, is that to explore who we are and become more of who we are in whatever avenue that is, does not mean that you become less of who you were. It means you become enhanced in who you are. And it doesn't mean that every single moment of your day, you're going to be doing this thing that in this moment might seem a little scary to even get to. I love that. I love the idea of working from the other side of the studio. How great is that, right? Thank you, Pamela. And you did not get off track, because each of us each of us shares our beingness in a certain way. And there are so many people who are just so excited to receive it. So thank you. All right. Who wants to go next? Paula, Bev, Nicole, who wants to talk about how you share your wisdom in the world? Tracy, there's Tracy.
I nominate Tracy to go first.
You nominate me to go first. So it's interesting. The first time I think I ever really understood that I wanted to work in healing was when it got showed to me in a way that was completely unexpected. When I was young, I think I was about 6 years old when I remember this happening, is that something started happening to my body that I had no definition, nobody to speak to, nobody would understand anything. It was that when I would sit around somebody and either I would be having a conversation with them or they'd be behind me in a line somewhere, my body would mirror whatever was going on in their bodies. And it was really alarming because I ended up actually really struggling with anxiety from that years up until I started to really understand what it was. Because when all of a sudden you're feeling happy and you're at the grocery store with your mom, and next thing you know, the person behind you is having heart issues and your heart starts racing and it starts showing that there's something that is in disharmony with the person behind you. And it wouldn't mirror, like if they were having heart issues, it would really affect my heart rate, the energy of my heart. It would pulsate, it would be weird, and all the different ways that a person is not in their harmony, it would then mirror with me. So that just started me on the journey of, first off, the way it actually was with working with my anxiety, trying to figure out how to remove that. But once I understood that the only thing the universe was actually asking of me was to receive the message, and once I got to the point and understood that it was just saying, okay, thank you for that information, it would end in me. I would not have it anymore. So then I started to learn how to be aware of what was mine and what was others. And then as soon as I started really getting, and I feel anxiety was a really great shower for me, because it would always show me when something about my surroundings wasn't as it should be.
I just want to jump in, and before Nicole goes, Tracy, the first time I met you is the first time somebody said to me, I just know. And you gave me the most amount of peace that I had in trying to figure out who I was. And we were just in a general conversation, and I was doing Reiki at a thing, and we just started talking, and somehow that came out, and you said, I just know things. And I still to this day remember hearing you say that. And I still to this day have to remind myself that not everybody just knows things. And how grateful I am, and how happy I am that so many people are coming to this festival and will see this for years to come, and will hear you say, once I understood what it was, I just had to acknowledge it. Incredibly powerful, and just personal thank you, for sure. All right, Nicole, I know you work with crystals, so I'm excited to hear how you interact with them, interpret with them, because geez Louise, I feel some of mine are really annoyed with me, and I don't even know why.
You get that more often than not. I started working with crystals since I was little. One of my favorites, actually my first gemstone I ever bought, was a clear quartz point. And usually you'll find it in my water glass. It's one that I use daily, and that's kind of always reminds me every time I look at it, not only does it raise my vibration, but it's that constant reminder of my beginning type thing. But as I progressed through crystals, they always just started as something pretty. They were something that put a smile on my face, and I was happy when I walked into the room. And it kind of went away for a few years. I was in a relationship that was so abusive and toxic, without a word of a lie, this person would pick up my amethyst crystal and it would turn black and shatter. Should have been a sign. I didn't listen to my crystals, but once I got back into being myself, or starting to find myself again, was when I started to hear these little like voices. And at first I thought I was going absolutely insane. And it was nothing, it started with nothing terrifying. It was just like, we've got you. Like, just, we've got you. And it was my crystals. And because they'd been so ignored, because it was frowned upon to chat with them in that situation. So getting to know them and starting to pick them up again, it was like finding an old friend after years. And they would tell me almost like where in the room to put them. They would tell me, okay, you're starting to overwork, slow down. And as I kept diving deeper and deeper and deeper into each friend, as I went through, the more messages I could get through them. They would tell me, I have a few that don't like being out under the full moon. They only want to work with the dark moon energy. Some that are like, if you go into journey without me, good luck. You know, there are gemstones in my car that are like, they were told me they were to be in the back seat, but then they were tired of that, so they had to be somewhere else. You know, and it's this constant chatter, but it's always welcome because it's always like little snippets throughout the day. I will still, just from what you said, you have the gemstones who are annoyed with you. When I did Reiki level 1, I found in the bottom of this cabinet a set of runes, blue kyanite runes. And they lit up. The owner didn't even know they were in the cupboard. Right? They were in a black pouch shoved in the corner, and it just like glowed. So obviously that was my sign, picked them up, took them home. Oh my gosh, the yelling. They were so loud. I could not keep them in my space with me. I literally stored them at my sister's. I could not have them in the house. I'm like, why is it that something that called to me, wanted to work with me, is now like screaming? And it wasn't until I did Master Teacher and I had the symbol that is on my arm, like integrate, that the runes were like, okay, and now you're ready. Right? This gemstone was waiting for me to get to that point. And they've just helped expand so much, because with the gemstones talking, now it's the trees, now it's the earth, it's the water, it's my guides. Kind of, they were my stepping stone, and they'll always be my trieds and true, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And, you know, I think so many of us can relate to that, you know, there's this, when we're meant to be all of who we are, we will become it, you know, and the way that we're informed of it is just part of that roadmap of each of our experience. And so exciting to have so many people that now know how to interpret of the earth, of the ether, of the beingness of all that we are in connection. So thank you so much. I'm going to bring some of my crystals to you to tell me why they're so mad at me. All right, Paula, Bev. Ooh, Bev.
I'll go. Yeah. Since Paula got to go first last time, she can go last this time.
Be happy.
Give her lots of time to think. But all my life, I had this big awareness of something, knowing something, and it was very abstract. And it was a very frustrating place to be, because it was kind of like a sense of clairsentience. So like that knowing something, but with it being so abstract and not very tangible, it was very difficult for me to be able to articulate what I knew and what I sensed in a very this tangible, comprehensive way. And so I had a bit of a time in my life where I was just really struggling with, the idea, and some of you have alluded to this, am I crazy? Right? Because there's no words to articulate what I'm sensing here. It's just so frustrating to be limited by the words that are not available. And I in my path, I began seeking various different, modalities and teachers and different things. And I began to learn that there are words that can only point to that greatness that we perceive. And we all have that. And we were talking about at the beginning, that sense of the mystic. The mystic has the ability to perceive that which is greater. And to get trapped in the illusion of the mind that we must convey that greatness within the limitations of this dimension keeps us trapped into the limitations of this dimension. And I began to learn that only the words that we use can only point to that which cannot be described, can only point to something greater that's beyond them. And when I was studying the integrative chakra therapy, one of the main tenets that we teach is that 95% of all communication is energy. It's not words. And as long as you're struggling to communicate and articulate in a way that meets the mind, you limit yourself to open yourself up to being the energy that communicates. And for me, that was huge. I'm like, oh, the pressure is gone. It's kind of like Pamela said, we do it unknowingly. And if you can recognize that you don't have to know what you're doing before you just open yourself up, open up that space to just allow that energy to flow through. And guess what? Then sometimes if you weren't tuning in, the words don't mean anything. But if you are tuning in and connecting energetically, the words magically transform and they alchemize this abstract confusion into something that's really comprehensible and concrete. And for me, that was like a huge epiphany in a sense. And it's my my challenge and my process when I do what I do, to allow myself to get myself out of the way, to get my mind out of the way, and just be what I know and allow it to flow. So that's how my process works. And, there's, it still seems very vague. I know it's not exactly tools, but the biggest thing I can say is the best thing I know is just to be what I know and let the rest just happen.
I am so glad that this is recorded. So I'm making like some little notes so I can remember, that I want to talk about with each of you. And I wanted to like make notes the whole time. And like everything you were saying was so informing me of what I know about communication. And I just want to pick out, you said something about when we tap in the chaos of our words, we can use alchemy and they move into the heart. I don't know how you said it. Thank God it's recorded. Because it's like, that right there, that we all are experiencing so often this thing of trying to communicate with the words that we've been taught that are attached to the beliefs of other people. And when we just drop into the knowing of ourselves, the way that we create reciprocity in connection is fabulous. And I'm so excited for all the people that get to interact with each of you differently, to come into their own process and their own place of becoming. And, just, you said, allow myself to be what I know. Oh, I'm just done right there. I forget. they seriously forget that all the time. And, you know, to remember that is truly life enhancing. Thank you. Okay, Paula, try and follow that.
I'm done.
Ouch, too much. You people
Very
are too
similar.
much.
So I actually consulted my team. How do they want me to respond to this? Because I feel there's somebody out there, maybe there's several somebodies who need to hear a few things that I need to say. I would like to start off by saying that I know what I know, and then I'm in the flow. When my heart opens up, I get more and more. So I'll tell you right now where I'm at. Yeah, I speak with animals. I hear, communicate with animals, rocks, crystals, rivers, oceans. I communicate with oceans across the world. I open up portals to communicate with people across the world in real time. I channel past loved ones. I channel a lot of Lemurian and Palladian healing. I channel lots of different star nations. I speak so far in about 6 different tongues. You know, this has all come about though. This is so much more, so much more. I see, hear, know, sense, feel. I'm telepathic. But this has all come about because I was willing to go there. I was willing to open up my heart and go there and accept myself. And I see my internet connection is unstable. I'm in the mountains here in Alberta, and sometimes we're a little unstable here. But I've come on a long journey of this, of opening up my heart, of opening up myself to be myself. And a big part of it is I know what my ego is. I know what my human trappings are. I know what my human side is, and I'll dance with that, you know. And then I'll come out, and my ancestors come in, and we have a little circle, and we work on things. And so what I wanted to say is that I wasn't always that way. I really wasn't. From the time I was a little girl, yes, I knew things. I could hear the neighbors, what they were thinking. I could hear what the neighbors' animals were especially thinking and were doing. We lived in the city, and we moved out just before I turned 9 years old. So I was the best one at finding my father's keys whenever he lost them. Nobody but me. I was the champion of that. For that, they loved me. When I knew what the neighbors were thinking, or when I knew what some company was thinking, or when I knew what the animals were saying, they thought I was crazy. So they told me I was crazy. And so I was the freak of the family, right? And I remember it was before we moved out, so I must have been like just about 9 years old. We had horses about 2 hours from the city. They were at my aunt and uncle's, and one of the mares had had a baby. And I kept saying to my dad, I said, we got to go see Missy. We got to go see Missy. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. And he kept saying, why? And I said, because she's telling me she's hurt. She's telling me she needs us. And he thought I was crazy. So he didn't go for a while. And then he finally went. And it was 80 acres. And there's this patch of bush that goes up the side and up at the top, and this big open field. And the horses were all up at the top over there. And when I jumped out of the vehicle, remember, I'm a city kid at that time, a raven flew over and said, follow me, Paula, I'll take you. And so I looked up at the raven, I said, okay. And I took off running across the field out into the bush. And my dad was yelling at me, get back here, you know? And I said, no. So I followed the raven. The raven led me right to the horse, and she was caught up in wire against a tree, and her leg was tied up. And she was very dehydrated, and so was her foal. And so she was in deep bush. Like, there was no pathway there. There was no way. If my father would have went to the horses, he wouldn't have found her. He said to me, he goes, how did you know she was here? And I said, because she called me. And the raven showed me the way to go. And right then was a huge moment in my life, because the look on my father's face, I think it scared him, number one. And then the other thing that happened was he didn't want me to tell anybody about how crazy I was. So that started my journey of shutting down. And while I wouldn't be able to walk away from picking up people's emotions and thoughts, I lived a lot of years of my life thinking that there was something the matter with me. So I eventually started to drown it in alcohol and try and get it out, like, oh, I can't function in society, you know. Actually, there's some truth to that. I couldn't function in the society I was in because, you know, my light was so dimmed there. I was not seen. I wasn't around anybody, like nobody, even to this day in my blood family. I don't know anybody who has any, you know, tapped into any of their intuition or anything. So I spent a lot of years like that. And then I had a near-death experience with a white light experience and all. And I came back, they were doing CPR on me. And I realized who I was. And I realized what it was to be human. And I was like, I am not turning around and going back to that. So yes, my human issues came back with me when I came back, but now I had a new insight on them, right? So I started to just take positive steps forward every step of the way. And I began to listen. I used to joke around that, you know, what the big thing is with me is I hear voices in my head, right? That's what I call them, voices in my head. I started to listen to those voices because they'd never steered me wrong before. And I started to listen, and slowly, step by step, and sometimes quickly, I climbed out of all of that, changed my whole life around, and then started working with people. And it's kind of funny. Now people seek me out to hear the voices in my head. So, you know, like I channel not only my ancestors, but I'll channel your ancestors. You know, I channel my guides, I'll channel your guides. I'll channel a dog that you had die when you were 3 years old. Whoever shows up in those realms for me to pass on the messages, for me to pass on the healings, whatever it may be, that's what I do. I had a mentor, well, I still do. He's actually my soul brother. I saw him before I ever met him. I knew what he looked like. I knew who he was going to be in my life. I didn't know his name. And then one day we met and I knew exactly who he was. And now that man, he's my true brother, and we do retreats together. We do all sorts of things together. And he said to me a long time ago, he said, Paula, he said, empty your mind. You know your stuff. Empty your mind. The rest of it's theirs. And I'm like, you know what? I took that and ran with it. And I started doing big trade shows. I started working with more people. And that's still the way that I do it, is because it's not about me. It's really not about me. Unless it is about me, then it's about me. If it's about my stuff, then fine. But if it's about somebody I'm working with, right? But it's not about me. And, you know, I might joke around about when it's my stuff, it's not about me. But really, it isn't. It's not about human Paula. Paula came here for a mission. Paula came here and walked the face of this planet at this time of the earth to do something. It's not about the way I'm treated by so-and-so or whatever, you know. I align with that truth within me, with that sacred truth, with that sacred love. And then by that, I help myself and I help others in whatever way it comes in. And sometimes it comes in, you know, like I'll think I know what I'm going to do in a session or in a group or at a retreat or something, and I get told to do something different, and I flow with it, and it ends up being the right thing. Just like my response right now, I was like going to keep it nice and short, tell people what I do, and then I was told to tell the story about the horse, right? Somewhere out there that helped somebody, and I'm so ever grateful and honored to be used, to be, I don't even know if use is the right word, just to be in this journey with others, to be in this with the world, even the collective. I'm just so honored to be here, you know, and to share whatever it is that comes through. And I'm open to more. And I know as I say that, the ego Paula goes, no. You know, that means more. I'm like, yeah, that's right. That means more, because I feel energized when I'm in alignment, you know, like I feel wonderful. I feel like that's who I am. and it is a great place to be. And yeah, okay, they're telling me that that's enough, Paula. Rein it in. I have a couple really funny guides, by the way, and the one guy, he goes, okay, that's enough, Paula. Rein it in. Rein it in.
Rein it in. Come on.
And so it is.
So it is. Yeah, it's so fascinating to listen to everybody, because we all have like that story and that awareness of, I learned this thing, and then 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 all of a sudden, I'm full in who I am. And the thing that you just said, I'm energized when I'm in alignment. People will ask me when I'm, working with them, oh, I don't want to drain you. Is this draining you? Or I don't want to share my stuff. But when I'm in alignment, it's just like this beautiful flow of caring and love, and we're energized because we're encompassing our whole being. Our whole beingness is present for you and for whoever is with us. And it's so, I also love what you said, Paula, and I'm totally going to use this tip. Empty your mind and the rest of it's theirs. Oh, so helpful, because I often am feeling things I don't really understand what I'm feeling. And I'm like, ooh, okay. All of you guys really shared a unique way that the world is being experienced by your wholeness, your beingness, I like to call it, or your essence, or whatever words you want to use. Each of us experiences it, interprets it, receives it, shares it in this beautifully unique way. And I know when I started trying to unfold who I am and become, I had a lot of concern that somebody was going to tell me how to do it, and that I would do it wrong, or like all of these different things along the way. And I know that there wasn't always people to guide us before. Like lots of us on this call, and lots of us at the festival, and lots of people you meet had to flounder around quite a bit on our own. And that's one of the most magnificent things that's showing up in our world in places like the Soulful Awakening Festival, because we aren't alone. And we don't have to figure it out on our own. And you can go and listen to Paula and Samir and Bev and Pamela and Nicole and Tracy and me, and take a little bit from each one and then go, oh, this one, I want to go, that's the place. Where some of us have like spent decades learning, like going to different places and learning for long periods of time. But here you get this opportunity to tap in to these very beautiful, unique people who aren't here to tell you how to interpret the world, but are here to help you know how you interpret the world, to help you understand how you are meant to be in your whole being, so that you can go and shine beside somebody else who wants to know how to be in their whole being. And that's the magnificence of these kind of events, is that you get to go and feel all the pieces of awareness that excite you and explore, right? And one of the things we're doing with the festival is we're creating a space where after you can come and gather, there's a platform for you to keep connecting, because transformation happens over time. Catalysts happen instantly. Like I'm sure everybody listening today has been like, oh, I got to call all those people, because all of you have something amazing for my soul. And you're ignited, and transformation happens over time. So it's a great format to be able to do this, to, tap into everybody, to be able to continue to do that, and then to tap into a group. We're coming close to the time that we're going to end our panel. And I am just, first of all, want to thank everybody who is supporting the Soulful Awakening Festival, who's coming, who is going to be coming, who will see this today, who might see it tomorrow, who might see it next weekend. We might see it in a year from now or 10 years from now, because with technology, we get to seriously bust time, right? Like you guys watch this in a week from now, and I hope you get that you just time traveled, right? We're time traveling. That's what the internet does for us people, time travel. And it's just as powerful for somebody who sees what you are sharing, who feels what you're becoming. It's just as powerful for them to become it 5 years from now as it is right now, because it's their moment. Okay, so I'm grateful for all the people who are coming. I'm grateful for everybody on the panel and all the practitioners that have already shared and will be sharing next weekend. So amazing, everybody. Get your tickets. And I'm just going to throw this out for everybody to, you don't have to share, but I hope all of you at least have something to say to this. Speaking of transformation and time, and how we've all had these experiences where we've, had teachers and guides or people that we stand with. What is it that you wish for someone else to know that is your wisdom? Like, what wisdom do you have today that's going to become the ancient wisdom tomorrow? Because you are all unbelievably amazing wisdom keepers in our world. And you are going to be informing for generations to come. And you will be the ancient ones, like we all have ancient ones and ancestors that we draw on. What one thing would you like to become the wisdom of the next generation? Big question.
Oh, I can jump right in there.
Yeah, please do.
Very briefly, what I wish for each person I come in contact with, what I wish for humanity is for you to understand who you really are, for you to understand, fully become aware of the divine, beautiful, luminous being of light that you really are, inhabiting this physical body, simply having an experience here. Tune into that and discover who you are.
Thank you, Pam. Samir?
If I could share only one thing, I would like people to hear this. Be kind. The rest will follow.
Wow.
I'd like to talk to the women. And we are at a stage in our history that once again, we're looking at the fact that we haven't had equal rights. We haven't had equal say. Patriarchy has made us smaller than we really are. To have every one of these people say, I thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy. To grow up as a child, as a female child, believing that you were crazy, we would have been the first ones on the pile when they burnt the witches. So take into your whole being the fact that as a female, we have the universal right to be more than what we were told. At 72, I went from the stage of burning our bras, and we all had to go buy undershirts, to the point that you kind of casually decided, oh yeah, well, I'm a woman and that's the way it's going to be. But now we can do it again. We can say our word, our power, our purpose, and our motivation is equal to all those around us. Matriarchy lives on.
Thank you, Pamela. That's beautiful wisdom to carry forward. And I really feel like in generations from now, everyone will be loved beautifully, equally, definitively. Nicole, Tracy, which one of you is jumping in?
If I had one piece of wisdom, it would be don't let anyone tell you you're wrong. This is your path. You decide. What is right for someone else does not have to be right for you. What you read in a book, if it doesn't resonate with you, there are no set rules. There is no set anything. What your body and your gut and your instinct is telling you is correct. Don't let anyone squash that flame by telling you that you are wrong, because you are not.
Beautiful. Tracy?
I think that if I wanted people to understand one thing, it would be the sentence, I am enough. I think that so many things come from the illusion that they're not. And that's what takes them off their path. And just for them to have a moment to really sit in that and understand and be able to say with conviction to themselves that I am enough.
I'm just going to breathe that in because, thank you. Paula?
I'd like to share 5 words that changed my life and still change my life on a daily basis. And that's what I allow will continue. Those 5 words led me out of abuse. Those 5 words led me into a life of love. And I apply those 5 words daily, even like on my spiritual journey, on my personal journey, on my business journey. What I allow will continue, because it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's what I'm choosing to align with, right? What I'm choosing to allow into my experience, my life experience. What I allow will continue.
Oh, thank you. And I think I would like to just, end with the understanding that we are all beautifully, amazingly, uniquely created to be here right now. And what we are all sharing in the world is valuable and magnificent. I'm truly grateful for this opportunity. I hope that people listening, find some of that wisdom and find some of that creativity and the curiosity to come and join, the speakers and share in the workshops, and just allow yourself to step into becoming. And we're going to see you all soon.